All right, we are back here. Michael Kelly Smith's meet and greet. And who are we with here?
My name is Aiden Finley, otherwise known as 86.
86? All right, all right. Where are you from?
I am from, Plymouth Meeting, Pennsylvania.
Nice, nice. So how long of a drive roughly was it for you?
It was about an hour and a half to get here.
Okay.
It wasn't too bad, just the traffic, there was no traffic.
Right, well, that's good. That's always good. So I wanted to ask you, when did you first hear of Britny Fox?
Well, over the summer, I started listening to Hair Nation on Sirius XM.
Nice,
and
okay.
I heard Girls School briefly. Then months later, back in February, my father gave me this.
Nice.
As he found it in the basement because, according to legend, Michael Kelly Smith and the band gave him and his sister this copy back in '88.
Really?
As you look on the back, it's actually a promotional.
Yes, I see that.
He passed it to me, and I decided to check them out and never went back.
Really? All right, so is that your favorite album from Britny Fox then?
Absolutely.
Okay. Have you heard the other ones then, I'm sure?
I haven't heard Springhead Motor Shark yet, but I've heard Bite Down Hard and Boys in Heat.
Okay, all right. Do you have a favorite Britny Fox? Do you have a top 3 favorite songs?
Long Way to Love,
Okay.
Girls School, and Deep Cut, Long Road off Boys in Heat.
Nice. Very good one. Very good way to end off Boys in Heat as well.
Good way to end Dizzy Dean Davidson's run in the band in general.
Good. Yeah, I agree. Now, are you a fan of the Tommy Paris era then? Bite Down Hard and
when I listened to Bite Down Hard, I liked it, but it was an adjustment.
Yeah, okay.
But then I listened to the Long Way to Live album and saw Tommy Paris was amazing with the Dean era stuff.
Very good, yes. Because when I seen him live a couple years ago, he certainly impressed me live, with the Dizzy stuff as well. Anything you want to tell him?
I do have 2 things I would like to say.
Yeah.
To Michael Kelly Smith, your guitar playing style, especially off of this and Boys in Heat, has influenced what will be my own debut album. Second, but you may not remember this, but back in late March, your friend Jason from Norristown Vinyl Closet Records put me on the phone with you for a brief minute. That is a moment I will always appreciate, and I hope you remember that. Peace out, brother.
Awesome.
And I would like a picture with you when I get in there.
Of course, and we will do that. And then also, too, can tell us where people can find you and your band.
Well, my stuff is still in development, but I will be starting an Instagram account under the name 86. Find me on there, Twitter, or X as it's known now.
Okay.
Yeah, and also a YouTube channel where the albums will go. And the album will be on all platforms like Apple Music, Spotify, and wherever else it's sold.
All right. Beautiful, brother. Thank you so much for coming on here.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Another fan here of Michael Kelly Smith and Britny Fox. So what is your name, my man?
My name's Dean. From
Not Dizzy Dean, right?
No, I've been known to be. Some people have mistaken me for him at some point back in the day.
Oh, nice. Okay, very cool. So what is your origins? When did you first hear of Britny Fox?
I saw him at Swizzles way back in the day.
Very cool. Here in York, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely. I had their debut, it was like an EP cassette, and had that, and loved them when I first heard them and everything. So
of course,
saw them a couple times at Swizzles and a couple other places locally. I had a band called Bash Nasty. We actually opened up for them 25 years ago at D. Alexander's in Lebanon.
Nice.
I think they were doing their live album at that point. Some of the stuff from that. So we got to share the stage with them, and it was an awesome time.
Very nice, very nice. All right, so you have here the debut of Britny Fox. Is this the debut that you bought when it came out?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, very cool.
Had it since then.
Very nice. So is this your favorite Britny Fox album then?
Well, it's right up there with that, and I always like Bite Down Hard as well. I know it was a different singer and everything, but
right.
That album had just complete different energy to it and everything. And,
yes. Michael Kelly went wild on that one.
Yes,
he had
absolutely.
an attitude on that one.
Absolutely. I think they all had an attitude on that one. It's because it was a long time since they had an album out and they did stuff, and It was
And it was just three parties against Dean saying, "Hey, we don't need you, Dean."
right,
Basically,
right,
yes.
absolutely.
So, yeah, and you certainly hear that on Bite Down Hard. So,
Yeah.
all right, is there a top 3 favorite song for you?
I have multiple ones. I mean, I love every song on
Oh,
this
yeah.
on this album, especially like
It's like pulling teeth. I agree.
the Slade song. They did an awesome job on that.
Mm-hmm. They do really good on all their covers.
Yeah,
Hair of a Dog.
yeah. That to me is my favorite version of Hair of the Dog that they did.
Oh yeah. Guns N' Roses ain't got nothing on
No,
Britny Fox. Yeah. Yes. And I will say that all up and down. I'll defend that all up and down. Britny Fox is better than Guns N' Roses.
Yeah.
So
I would say.
so definitely. Thank you, my man. Anything you want to tell him, Michael Kelly? I mean, that you won't be telling him soon enough.
I think that's about it. Just look forward to seeing you, and wish you a good future.
All right, brother. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I appreciate here with right now.
Hi, my name is Lloyd, and I flew in from Las Vegas, Nevada to come attend this.
Really?
Yes, sir.
All right. How long did that take?
About 4.5 hours for the flight. I flew into D.C. and drove up here, got a rental.
Okay.
I'm originally from the area, which is why I did that.
Okay, that makes sense then. All right. Damn, we're getting everyone from across the country here.
Well, I'm a huge fan of Michael Kelly Smith and Britny Fox, and I haven't seen or heard about him in 20 years, so I figured if I got a verified location, I might as well go for it.
There you go, man. All right, good. So, what are some of your origin? Like, do you remember the first time you heard Britny Fox?
Oh, absolutely. Their first record, "Long Way to Love," is still one of my favorite songs of all time.
Okay.
And I'm not into the genre. I don't like hair metal. I'm a Slayer fan. I like the heavier
More
stuff.
of a thrashier
yes,
guy.
I'm a thrash guy. My band at home, we're a thrash band.
Okay.
But Britny Fox, for whatever reason, hit perfectly for me, and my all-time favorite hair band.
Nice. Is it some of Dizzy's vocal style? So is Cinderella
Cinderella is a huge influence of mine as well.
Okay.
I like them, but I don't love them. I love Britny Fox, and it's not really a Dizzy thing because I'm a huge fan of Tommy Paris too.
Yep.
It's more about the band and the chemistry and the songwriting, especially catchy but simple. I think I can't think of a bad song they made not off the Springhead record. I'm not a fan of that record.
Okay, yeah, and that's usually the common consensus.
Yeah.
There's some good stuff on there, but when you compare it to the first three, though, yeah, it's different.
Yeah, the first three records are absolute gold in my world.
I agree, man. Anything else that you want to tell Michael here that you won't be telling?
Hey, Michael, if you're watching this, it's going to be an honor to meet you when I finally get in the door. It's been a long time. I've seen your band 100 times. I've never gotten this close to you, though, bud.
Yes.
So I appreciate you doing this, sir.
All right, my man. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, is there anything else that you wanted to say?
No, I'm good, man. Right. Just happy to be here in Red Lion, Pennsylvania.
We got here Teddy in a windstorm right now.
Yeah.
But Teddy's here, and I kind of wanted to ask everyone. Teddy's a really good guitar player. For what, age 9 you are
Yes.
now? Okay, so age 9 and a guitar prodigy. So I will put clips to Teddy's guitar playing here at the end of the video here. And also, I wanted to ask Teddy, he's here with Michael Kelly. When did you meet? Or how did you meet Michael Kelly Smith?
I'm not sure. Just I think Arlene, told me, or it was Cheryl. I think it was Cheryl. She told me that Michael was usually coming to the
The
like,
record collectors event, the record expo every
Yeah.
Sunday, or like once a month on a Sunday. So
Okay.
yeah, that's basically kind of how I met Michael like 2 years ago, and that's when I met
Yeah.
you. I met you
Yeah,
there
sure.
too. So that's cool. So then you went and got guitar lessons, or now you take guitar lessons with Michael, right?
Yeah,
How's that?
it's pretty good.
You like it? You learn a
Yeah.
lot of things.
Yeah.
Okay. What's the one thing that you like about Michael Kelly Smith, the guitar teacher?
That he just makes everything simple.
It makes it simple. So
Yeah.
he works with you, right?
Yeah.
Like he doesn't yell at you if you get one note wrong, right?
Yeah. He just works on a good pace.
Okay.
Steady pace.
Very cool. So he's one of your favorite teachers that you had so far, then, right?
Yeah.
Cool. That's what we like to hear. And yeah, because Michael Kelly's been doing the guitar lessons for multiple years now, if not decades. So very cool to hear that. Teddy, I got one more question for you here. What's your favorite Britny Fox song?
I forget all the names.
Is it Girl School? Is it Long Way to Love?
I think it's Long Way to Love.
Long Way to Love is your favorite?
Yeah.
Okay, that's a very good one. Really good guitar solos in that song. So, all right. So, did you try to learn that one yet?
No.
No, not yet. Are you
No.
going to?
Yeah, probably.
Okay, cool. I mean, you got the best teacher for that song, right?
Yeah. He was literally in the band.
Yep, exactly. So, all right, Teddy. Where can everyone find you?
You can find me at Teddy Who Rock on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. I don't upload on Facebook that much though.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. So, yes, I will put the link to Teddy's stuff in the description as well. So, Teddy, my man, thank you for coming on. All right, we got a long line here, so we got a lot of people to talk to. So, we got here 2 special guests for Michael Kelly here. So, can you guys kind of explain who you guys are?
My name's Jeff Niedenthal. I work for Johnny D clear up to the end of Britny Fox, and then we ended up going out with Dizzy's new band, Black Eyed Susan, until they broke up. And then I think the last show was March of '92, and then the road was over for me. So that was that was it. We did the Alice Cooper Trash's Europe tour.
Yep.
And we did all over the United States 3
Okay.
times. I'm really not exactly sure, but toured with the Bullet Boys, and we were out with a lot of bands.
Yeah.
Rat, I was out with Rat. I was Jimmy Chalfont's drum tech for a while.
Okay, from Kicks. Yep.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Nice. Very good. So, do you guys have any stories from the days?
I don't know. They're like, we should talk.
Okay. Yeah, give us
what happens on the road stays on the road.
Okay, I was gonna say, do you have like a clean story that you kind of can tell?
Oh well, I tell you, I think one of the best times I was out on the road was when we ended up doing the LA gig, and we met everybody.
Okay.
Ronnie James Dio. I sat and drank some beers with Tommy Lee and Heather Locklear.
Nice. Okay.
Met Gene Simmons and everybody from Motley Crue.
Yeah.
It was like opening up a circus magazine back in the '80s.
Mhm.
You know, that's the way that was, and that was really good. We had a lot of fun doing that. That was probably a highlight, meeting all those different people. You know?
Right. Oh yeah. What was?
I think one of the horror stories that Mike wouldn't want to hear again was the first time he ever had to watch his band perform from the side of the stage.
Okay.
We were on the Alice Cooper tour in Europe. We were the openers before Great White.
Mm-hmm.
All of a sudden, about 2 songs in or something, Mike's amps went down. We couldn't get them back up.
Okay.
The whole side of that stage, backline power was going. And he had to watch the show from the side of the stage and couldn't get it back up. So we don't know if we were sabotaged or what it was, but I'm sure Mike will remember that story.
Really?
I never saw him mad.
No,
He never gets mad.
He wasn't mad at that point though either.
He's disappointed, of course, but
Yeah.
he never gets mad.
Okay.
He's
Because
such a good guy.
We took
Yeah.
everything back in the hallway, plugged it in, make sure it worked. Everything went fine.
Mm-hmm.
So something happened with the power. We're not sure.
So a little conspiracy then, huh?
We don't know.
That's what we
Okay.
thought. 'Cause that's the first thing Mike thought.
We weren't Great White
He
fans.
said,
Okay.
Nah.
Okay.
He said, "Do you think they set us up?" I was like, "You're a lucky dude. It's possible."
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, of course, we had rental gear. Rental
Yeah.
heads. We brought our guitars and stuff on. You had rental drums too, didn't you?
Yeah.
We went to what's that place? John Henry's.
in Europe, in London.
Okay.
Get a rental gear. Yeah, that was one of the hard stories.
So what's the biggest difference between touring in Europe than say U.S.?
The food.
That makes sense.
Yeah, the food wasn't the greatest. I was trying to find a bag of ice.
Really? That was hard, huh?
Yeah, you get used to drinking a lot. Of warm beers.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. Okay.
But it was fun though. And then when we were over there, the first time I went over, I got to hook up with. They asked me to do a show for Diablo. Sister Dee Snyder had a new band, Diablo, and they said you need to be a drum tech, and I couldn't believe it. And it was the original drummer from Iron Maiden was playing drums. Clive Barr. Yeah. And then that was like right before he passed, and I got some of his stick signed. That was a good moment for me.
Nice.
He was really good and really nice to work with.
I
It was a really good time to be with those guys. One show in and out, and they didn't last long. But it was fun to work with those guys.
Okay.
Japan was totally different.
Japan was a lot of fun.
I hear Japan's like a whole different world.
No, we
Shows were done. What? 8 o'clock.
We didn't load. We didn't tear down. We didn't do anything. We showed up, made sure the show went good.
Really?
It was really nice.
Okay.
Yeah, it was really nice.
Very
The
cool.
show started at like 6, over by 8.
Yeah, but the 80s was sex, drugs, and rock and roll.
Different time.
And I tell people, I go, some I remember. No cell phones, thank God.
Yeah.
Polaroids now.
Well, I was gonna
Whole
say
different
it's not like you were off scot-free, but
No.
it was a lot harder
Yeah.
though. Yeah.
And there's some 8mm video floating around out there
story.
somewhere.
Around there somewhere. Dean's got it.
Okay.
He's got some good.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Dean's got a lot of good videos.
Okay.
I talked to him not too long ago. I went out west.
He's out in Arizona, right?
Somewhere. I don't
Okay.
know exactly now. He moves around. But I talked to him over the phone during COVID for a while. And then I stayed with Chris Branco, the drummer for Black Eyed Susan, for like 3 or 4 days. We were heading out to Tucson, me and my wife, and he hooked us up for 3 days. That was really nice.
Okay, very cool.
Yeah, we try to stay in touch with everybody.
Of course.
Saw Johnny.
I was gonna say you haven't.
At the M3 show, they
Okay.
played. Doro played. We flew, or not flew. We drove down. He flew.
He
He only stayed one day. We
Really?
left that night or next morning.
Yeah.
That kinda bummed me out.
Because he does a lot of stuff over in Europe with Doro and stuff.
He lives in
And
Germany now.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was just good seeing him.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
been doing it since he was 19. He got on a plane right out of high school.
Ever since
and never
wasted,
stopped.
yeah. Yep.
I really like Johnny.
Okay, very cool.
Yeah.
All right, we are out here with another fan. What is your name, my man?
Travis Holiday.
Travis. All right. So I know. Well, I usually ask everyone I interviewed so far. What do you remember the first time you ever heard Britny Fox?
I absolutely do. My brother, who's 7 years older than me, actually took me to our local record store.
Okay.
And they were selling the Britny Fox in America demo.
Yes. Okay. Yep.
Which I have 2 of.
All right.
And we bought a shirt. We bought a poster. That poster.
Nice.
And the demo. Listened to him. And then he took me to the concert. I'm from Wellsboro, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
And we actually had a local movie theater, and they played in our local movie theater.
Really? Okay.
And before the concert, we're a little tiny 2-streetlight town, so it was a big deal to have a band in town.
Oh yeah.
And next door was a motel. I had a fire escape on the outside, and the guys came out on the fire escape, and it was like pandemonium. Like the crowd.
So it was sold out pretty much?
It was pretty close to being sold out.
Okay.
And even the guys that I've met from the band have said they felt like it was Beatlemania because everyone was just going crazy.
So this was right before they got signed?
This was prior to them being signed.
Yes, okay.
Yeah. This was after Tony had already died.
Okay.
I believe Adam was playing drums for the band.
Okay, yeah.
And it was before Johnny was with them.
Because he was still in Wasted, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yep, he was still in Wasted.
All
So, yeah, we saw them play in this little rinky-dink movie theater, and they rocked it. It was awesome. Had a couple local bands open up for them. And then, fast forward about a year, I was at a mall, and I walked into the record store, and there's all of this Britny Fox stuff in the big posters, their albums, all on
long boxes,
pre-internet.
Oh yeah,
You didn't know if a band got signed. Unless
right.
You read a magazine.
Yeah. Magazine or MTV.
So I was like, oh my God, they got signed. So obviously I had to buy the album immediately, cassette.
Okay.
Immediately. And fast forward a few months, I heard that they were coming back to play Mansfield University, which is about 13 miles away from Wellsboro, very close.
Okay.
And they were going to play at the university, and a band called Extreme that nobody had heard of was opening for them.
That's a hell of a bill.
It was a great bill. So they came. That was the first time I ever heard Extreme. I'd never even heard their album prior. Amazing.
So you were sold on Extreme after that day?
Oh, I was, been an Extreme fan ever since then.
Okay.
Love Extreme.
I say, real quick side question: what's your favorite Extreme album?
Probably the first album, just because it holds sentimental value to me.
That's understandable.
Like I remember the first time I saw Kid Ego on MTV, and it was kind of like
great song.
Now Porno Graffiti, I actually saw them play a few years ago, front to back. They actually went out and they played the album front to back, and it's a phenomenal album. I love the album, but there's sentimental value to the first album.
That's fair. That's fair.
So, same way with Britny Fox. That first album will always hold a special place in my heart.
Okay,
it was the first one I ever saw.
Well, that was going to be my next question. So, which is your favorite of the Britny Fox albums? So,
yeah, it's probably the original. Actually, the In America demo is my actual favorite.
Interesting.
I like those take on the songs. They got changed a little bit.
Okay, a little more raw.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I like them. But the first album, hands down, will always be the one because those songs.
Okay.
And seeing them as a 12-year-old kid who had never seen a band play live before, and seeing those guys get up and they put on a full rock and roll show. It was not small town show. It was just as good as the show I saw when they played at Mansfield University. It was great. They came out and they just rocked it. They had their stage gear on that everybody knows them for.
Yeah, yep.
And I didn't know that they wouldn't be with Dean that long. Right. And I actually had the opportunity to see him twice with Dean, which I consider to be very lucky because
it didn't happen much.
There were only a handful of years that they were together with that line.
That kind of leads me to: are you a fan of the Tommy Paris era, though?
I am. I like Bite Down Hard. It's a good album. I don't have anything against it. It's just different to me.
Right.
It's not truly Britny Fox to me. I know a lot of people consider that to be their best album, but those people didn't see Dean live with the band.
Okay.
There was a magic that was with that original band that can't be replaced. Just like any band who loses their original lead singer, it takes something away.
Dizzy had a stage presence too.
He did. I mean, he had an amazing Tom Kiefer-like stage presence. He just walked up and he was there. So it was incredible. But I own the Bite Down Hard album. I've actually seen them play with Tommy live, and he was fantastic. He actually does the Dean stuff justice.
I agree.
He does a good job.
I agree.
But
it's just not the same.
It's just not the same.
Okay, that's fair. That's totally fair.
And I've met Johnny and I've met Billy on different occasions at different places and got my picture taken with them and stuff. But Michael and Dean are the two elusive ones. You never see the guys. Dean disappeared completely.
Yeah. And somewhat the same with Mike. Unless you're taking guitar lessons, you don't know where Michael's at. Yeah.
And I know he's he's a Pennsylvania guy.
Yes.
Philly guy.
Yep.
So I know that, you should see him around. So fast forward to current social media on Britny Fox pages. Yeah. I started seeing Michael at all these record places signing autographs.
Yep.
And I am a friend of Tom's Music Trade, the record store we're at. And I saw that Michael was there and meeting with him. And then I saw that he was doing a signing, and I was just like, what an opportunity to come full circle. So
you can't beat it.
No, and it was fantastic. It was everything I wanted it to be meeting him.
Okay, cool.
Super nice guy. Still can play guitar as good as the day I saw him back in '87. So it's just a really big moment for me. I spent a lot of money on a lot of stuff.
So you got yourself signed and stuff.
I did. I actually got a poster with all the original guys on it.
I was gonna say, that's one that I am missing from the collection. So if there's any left, I'll grab one today.
Yeah. So it's Britny will always hold a special place in my heart. One of my favorite bands, just because of the sentimental reasons of seeing them when I was young, seeing them with my brother, first concert. Just a great band.
Now, since I asked you, you're a big Dizzy fan, and since I asked you about the Tommy era, what do you think of Black Eyed Susan? All right, brother. Is there anything that you want to let Michael Kelly Smith know, because he's gonna be editing this with me? And
I'm super excited. I'm like a kid today, getting a chance to meet Michael. I just hope he understands the importance that he has on the people who were around then, and musically how much he means to us. And I'd love to see him get back out there and do something. Michael Kelly Smith Band.
Yep.
Something like that.
Yeah, that's what I kind of hear some rumors going around.
I would love to see something like that because just watching him today play, I mean, that's too much talent to just not be out
Sit
there.
on the sideline.
Yeah, not be out there in the world. So thank him for coming today. Thank him for signing all the stuff, answering all the questions, and just being a fantastic guy. So it was a great experience.
All right, brother. Thank you so much for doing this.
All right. Thanks.
Still here in Michael Kelly Smith meet and greet, and we got our buddy here, Tucker. What is going on, my man?
What's up, guys?
Yeah, I was gonna say definitely. I certainly enjoyed your first couple videos of your new YouTube channel. Talk to me a little bit about that.
It's just pickup videos of vinyl and CDs and album reviews.
Okay, very nice. And your most recent video was what? Let It Scream, right?
Let It Scream.
From the Scream. Very nice, very nice. As everyone that watches this channel, we love that album. So I will put the link to that review or that video in the description as well, and possibly right above here somewhere if I can remember that. But anyway, how you doing today, man? Are you having a good time?
Yeah, I'm having a great time. It is overwhelming.
Yeah.
I met Michael Kelly Smith. It's crazy.
Yeah, I was gonna say definitely. So, what was your introduction to Britny Fox then?
It was when I was in high school. I actually didn't like them much when I was in high school.
All right.
I don't know why. I think it's because of phase.
Okay. But now, were you a fan of like that style, or not a fan of that style of metal?
I was a huge fan of Cinderella.
Oh, okay. All right. So, because you're not the only one that ever told me that. Because a good buddy of mine, he really liked Cinderella, but he was always like, on Britny Fox. So I was like, why? It's just kind of like the same band, but not copy though either, but you could tell they're from the same area. They have the same influences and stuff like that. So that I totally get where you're coming from with that. So what was the first song that you remember hearing?
It was Girl School.
Okay. So, and you didn't like Girl School?
I didn't at the time.
Okay. All right. So what was the turning point then that you were like, okay, I dig Britny Fox now?
I think it's just an age thing.
Okay.
I don't know how else to explain it, but
that makes sense.
Their songwriting is very good. Like Save the Week.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
That's a very deep song.
Yes. I always say that song has very well written lyrics, and a message to it. But as far as like the song goes, it's in my opinion like one of the weaker Britny Fox songs. But like I like the message a lot in that. Ever since I was a young kid, like I thought that's a cool song, So, okay, so what do you have a favorite Britny Fox album then?
Bite Down Hard, I think.
Yeah, all right. Yeah. You might be the first one that said Bite Down Hard so far, I think, today, if I remember correctly. So why do you prefer that one over the first of the Dizzies?
I feel like they're louder. The guitar is more up front. And like you said on your other video, it's attitude.
Yeah. Yeah, certainly they have something to prove, it sounds like, and a little bit of an edge, obviously, from that early 90s sound. Like, you're getting more sleazier, even though Michael says that wasn't really, like, their thought to go, like, sleazier, more edgier. Just a natural progression in early 90s, and with the attitude was saying, oh, Dizzy left us? Well, this is what we're going to do now, So, and I agree with that. So,
and they sound great, too.
Oh, my gosh, yeah. Yeah, and I always say this all the time. Tommy did a hell of a job to have Britny Fox fans forget about Dizzy. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like I know a lot of people don't like the Tommy Paris era, but you cannot knock him for not having talent, So definitely I'm a big fan of the Tommy Paris era as well, and for those reasons. So is there a favorite 1-3 songs off the top of your head that you really dig?
I'm a softie, so I like
The ballads. Oh, yeah, okay.
That's a good one.
Very
Over
nice.
and
That's
Out.
a. Oh, okay. Interesting.
My uncle actually showed me that song about 13 years ago.
Okay.
After their house burnt down, but
oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, that's not a. I mean, that's not a good memory to have. But I guess the
No,
song,
the song,
the song helps out. But damn, okay. So, so most of this. That's I guess that's pretty much why you like Bite Down Hard the most, because you like those deep cuts on there. You
Yeah.
know? And find me a better single than Louder. Like that's just. It's like, guys, get the fuck out of the way. You know what I mean? Like, come on. Like, it's we're here, we're loud, no pun intended. It's an amazing song. So, I don't know. Have you ever heard his other band, Razamanaz?
No, but
Okay.
I know they're named after Nazareth's one album.
Yes, and that is a big influence. Nazareth is a big influence, obviously, with Hair of a Dog and for Michael.
I was going to be a weirdo and bring in that album for him to sign.
Really? I
but
mean, that
I
would be kind of
decided not
cool.
to,
That
yeah.
would have been kind of cool, though. He would appreciate it. I would say he would totally would have appreciated that. But definitely check out Razamanaz. They have a more 70s style to them, and Corey has great vocals on that as well. He kind of sounds. They do a cover of Seasons of Wither from Aerosmith,
Oh, wow, yeah.
and Corey sounds pretty much just like Steven Tyler, and it's
I'm gonna
really
have to
good.
listen to that then.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to find because I always tell Michael, you got to reissue this, like because like there's not many copies still around, and we're working on it. So when it does, you'll be the first to know. So, but yeah, man, is there anything that you wanted to like tell Michael, because he'll be seeing this documentary here? So
He is a very down to earth person, which caught me off guard.
okay,
And he makes funny jokes. He's an awesome guy.
yep, certainly, yeah, easy to talk to. Always having a conversation with everyone here, basically, and that it was kind of a long line to wait in. I
Yeah.
kind of felt bad for everyone because you're waiting 2 hours, but it is worth it once you get in there. He'll sign anything, he'll tell you, he'll talk to you, and everyone so far did not have any issues with waiting, and they said their piece to him and had a good time, man.
And
So-
he was thanking us for being patient, which was huge.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. And you certainly got some stuff, not with you here, but
Yeah, I put it in.
Yeah, you put it in your car, but like you certainly got some vinyl. You got your stuff signed that you did have. Like, can't ask for much more, right?
Nope.
All right, man. Anything else you wanted to touch on before we wrap up?
And it's nice meeting you too.
Yeah, that's right. This is the first time that we're actually like meeting face to face here because we went to school together, right?
I think I was 4. I'm 4 years younger than you. I'm
Okay,
pretty sure.
all right. So you were a freshman then when I was a senior, and I did not show up to senior year that much. I guarantee I skipped probably 40 days of senior year, so you didn't see me too much. But I guess I have a distinct face, maybe. But definitely, man. It was always fun. Yeah, senior, it brings back memories, and wish you would have said, "Hey, I don't like Britny Fox," and we would have gotten in a fight. We would have gotten in a fight in high school, and then here we are later. You would have came back to me and said, "Man, I'm sorry."
Yep.
But this has been awesome, man. Appreciate you coming on and just talking, man. This is great, and seeing like people that I knew or was around 10 years ago in school, just coming up here, talking and liking the stuff that we all like here now, and it's just cool to see the young people out too.
Yeah.
And it's not, even though people say it's dying or it's dead, I honestly seen probably 10 people my age or younger today, and that's a decent.
Yeah, that caught me off guard.
I was gonna say, man, it's not dead yet, but we gotta do something there and like with your channel and stuff, like we gotta do something to push it out to more people.
Keep it growing.
So, exactly. So, all right, Tucker, my man, guys, go check out Tucker's channel as well.
Tucker's Turntable Retrospect.
Zach Wild came to do the solo on Six Guns Loaded.
Sure. We were doing. Here's our question and answer, which we never did, man. Here it is. Okay, we finally got to it. So we were out in L.A. I think the studio was 1-on-1, I believe. But anyway, it was a Hollywood, L.A. studio that Metallica just finished doing their Black album in. Well, a few months before that, they had finished the Black album, which they recorded there. After Metallica, Ozzy went in to record No More Tears. And we weren't even out there yet when they started that. And I guess they were in there for a couple months. And when they had the whole album recorded, they mixed it in the same studio. And Ozzy or somebody decided, probably Sharon, that mixes weren't any good. So they had to start over and remix the whole album. So now they were supposed to be done at this point, and we were supposed to be coming in right after them. It was scheduled.
Yeah.
You know, we were booked in the studio. We had already got at that point, and when they told us they were going to be finished, you know, we had flown out there and did pre-production with the producers, same producers that did the Ozzy album, Dwayne Barron and John Purdell. So we had already done pre-production, but when somebody made the call that they wanted to remix the entire No More Tears album, they said, well, we need a week or two in the studio because we're going to remix it. In other words, we had to wait. And we're like, Ozzy, sure. What are we going to tell Ozzy to get the hell out of there? No, you know, we were like, hey, it's LA, man. We'll just hang around, you know, hang out with LSD.
Yeah.
Another side story. Band called Life, Sex, Death. That was awesome at the time. And they were coming in the studio, same studio, to do their first album right after Bite Down Hard. So we got to meet them and hang out and went to see them live. And that's a whole story in and of itself, right? Mm-hmm. So getting back to Ozzy, while we were waiting, they invited us in while they were remixing. So we were hanging around the studio, and we had already known Zach from before. Not sure exactly how, but we knew him from around before. Mm-hmm. So he was hanging around because his parts were done, and he was just hanging around while they were remixing the album too. So we got to chatting up, and you know, he heard some of the songs we were doing. So they finally finished mixing the album, and we got started recording. The day we were doing Six Guns Loaded, Zach was still hanging around. I don't think he ever left the place. He was on the sofa with his Les Paul, you know, just kicked back, had a couple beers, whatever. And he roided like Six Guns Loaded, which everyone knows, of course. Zach really liked that. So when it came time when I was doing the guitar solos, which was actually a couple of weeks later, I mean, because we had to do all the bass, drums, and vocals, and, you know, we didn't do the lead guitar stuff until probably a month later. Zach's still hanging around because he had no place to go, man. He was just hanging around, you know. And I did my first solo on it, and he's hanging around. He's like, yeah, that's cool, man. I like it. And he's like, I love that riff. So I thought, wow, maybe I should offer for him to play the solo at the end of the song. There's an outro solo. And I said, do you want to play the out solo? And he's like, yeah, sure. Grabbed his Les Paul, tuned up, 2 or 3 takes, cranked out that solo at the end. And everybody was like, wow, yeah, Zach, awesome, dude. And he was like, yeah, you know, just doing his thing. So that's how it came to be that Zach played the end solo on Six Guns Loaded. But the story doesn't exactly end there. So the album comes out, and everybody knows Zach played the last solo on Six Guns Loaded, the opening track. Then we went out and started doing some gigs. Well, guess what? Now I have to play that solo, right? So I'm thinking, well, now how am I going to play Zach Wild's solo? But I gave it my best, my damnedest, and I actually kind of pulled it off, I think. So that was one of my achieving my proud moments, like, wow, I could play Zach solo, you know what I mean? Maybe better than him, I don't know. No, it's pretty damn good though. But yeah, so I kind of played what Zach played, more or less, you know, as close as I could, but I put a little bit of my, you know, flavor and vibe to it. And what you hear on the Long Way to Live album is, that's all me at the end. That's us live, obviously. So it's all me at the end doing Zach's solo. And that's that story right there.
Awesome.
The rest is freaking history.
I don't know if you want to answer it, but do you have any like funny stories from the road that you're like, oh, that was hilarious kind of thing? I know I asked that at other meet and greets, and they're like, no, we have no fun on the road.
Yeah.
Just nothing.
Well, I'll tell you this. It's more fun in the beginning.
Okay.
Because they're like, wow, we got a record deal. We're on MTV. We're selling albums. Not making any money, but we're on MTV. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And we're on tour. That's all fun and games. That's cool. So in the beginning, it's super awesome because you get to travel. You're on a tour bus. You're meeting people, and the fans come out.
New experiences.
A lot of like stuff like today. We used to do a lot of in stores and meet and greets, and radio station interviews. And our first tour was with Poison on the Open Up and Say Ah tour. And then shortly thereafter, was it the first year? Rat? Was that later?
With on Reach for the Sky
Yeah.
tour. Yeah, and then you.
Was that 89? I get confused.
Yeah, 88, 89.
Okay,
Yeah,
so we did a couple month tour with Poison, and then we did some dates with Joan Jett, and then I think we did the Rat tour. Then we did more Joan Jett opening slots, and then then we went to Japan and played with Bon Jovi, Rat, and Kingdom Come on New Year's Eve. Have any of you guys seen that show, like online or anything? Go on YouTube and type in Britny Fox live in Japan, and you'll find Long Way to Love. They filmed the whole show, but for some reason, and the only thing on YouTube is Long Way to Love, except for you can also go to Bon Jovi, Kingdom Come, Rat, and Britny Fox live in Japan, because at the end of the 4 bands playing on New Year's Eve, they did the whole countdown, 10, 9, 8. And then all 4 bands came out on stage and played, and jammed on "It's All Over Now," that old classic.
Mm-hmm.
And that was cool. That was the peak of our career right there. Well, I mean, just playing over there in general, because it was in the Tokyo Dome. It's called, which they call the Big Egg, because it has a roof, right, and it's shaped like an egg, and it holds like 50-some thousand people. It was insane. Like, it was people as far as you could see. So that was our biggest show ever. And we were good at that point. We were tight, and we were at the top of our game. So that was an unbelievable gig. And at that point, when you're playing in Japan in front of 50,000 people on New Year's Eve, we're thinking, this is all going along pretty cool, right? This is working out good, Still didn't make any money, but we're selling records, we're on tour, we're playing in front of all these people. We're still getting along at that point, and it was all really cool. What was the other part of the question?
Just
fun, right?
Yeah, and any funny stories, even maybe pranks or something that.
Well, Dean was a Mr. Prankster.
Okay.
He would always do all kinds of nonsense. He thought it was all funny, but not everyone else thought everything he thought was funny was funny.
Gotcha.
There was some really stupid stuff that he used to do. Not any one thing comes to mind, because I was never part of that too much. Like, I was kind of the outcast of the whole scene.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I was the lead guitar player in a rock band on tour, but everything that goes on in that arena and that lifestyle wasn't my thing.
More reserved.
Yeah, so I was always just off doing something else.
Mm-hmm.
On days off.
Record shopping.
Yeah. I would go record shopping, or I would go find a restaurant, a vegetarian restaurant, and eat by myself a lot of times. So I was kind of the loner of the whole band and the whole tour. On the Poison tour, I hung out with Ricky Rocket probably the most, because he was an animal rights guy. He, a PETA person, people for the ethical treatment of animals, vegetarian. So, we had a lot in common. So him and I got along and hung out. But the rest of the party, getting fucked up and drinking and drugs, that wasn't my scene. So I just wasn't part of it. And people are like, what the fuck's wrong with him? I'm like, what the fuck's wrong with you? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That was just my take on it. It wasn't my scene. The playing was.
Yeah.
I mean, I loved playing and doing our thing. And in the beginning, the travel was really awesome. Like I said, you stay awake, because I used to sit up front with the bus driver and check out all the states we were driving through, and different famous sites and whatever. There's so many, but we were always, we toured the states back and forth a couple times. And I had never been to half of those states. So it was really cool in the beginning. But after a while, what happens is it gets old, like anything. No matter how cool something is, if it's all you do for a couple years, after a while, it's like, fuck, hotels. And it gets really tiring because, okay, we pull up at 5 a.m. to a hotel. You got to lug all your luggage into the hotel. And you're fucking exhausted, you know what I mean? And it's, you can sleep on the bus, but not when you have a bunch of fucking idiots like drinking and smoking and carrying on all night, you know what I mean?
Yep.
Because that's what it was, pretty much, you know what I mean? Which is how it usually goes, mostly, right? That's part of being on tour, having fun and whatever. But so then after a while, one hotel after the other. And then you can sleep for a couple hours. Then you unpack all your luggage. Then you have to get up and maybe go to a radio station or whatever. You get your shower, you eat breakfast. Then you pack all your shit up again. Then it goes on the bus. And then you drive either maybe 50 miles or sometimes 1,500 miles, depending on the way the tour was laid out. And it gets tiring. It really does. Even when you're in your 20s, it's like it's a lot, man, to not sleep. You know what I mean? Because you're not in a normal sleep pattern at all. Bob, I was like you back then, man. I was getting up at not getting up at 3 a.m. I was going to bed at 5. You know what I mean? So it's a whole different lifestyle. I wouldn't trade it for anything. Would not trade it for anything. I wouldn't change a thing. Whole Cinderella thing, that was a drag. They did great. We did not do nearly as well as Britny Fox didn't do nearly as well as they did. But, everything happens for a reason, I guess, It wasn't meant to be, so I just said, fuck it. Got with Dean and, started Britny Fox. Got Bill and, Tony, and then he was killed in a car accident. Ended up getting Adam to fill in. Then we ended up with Johnny D. We got the record deal, did the first album. The thing went gold in a couple months. We did those tours. Then we went to Japan New Year's Eve. We were supposed to come back. Am I getting these years confused now?
No, you're
Oh no,
doing
I
good
know.
so
Hang
far.
on.
Yeah.
No, we came back. Oh no, at some point, we went to New York and did Boys and Heat.
Yeah.
We recorded that. Oh, then after that album, we hadn't been to Canada or South America or Australia or anywhere really, at that point. So we got offered the Alice Cooper tour, the Trash album, in '89, and we're like, well, we're not going to turn that down. I mean, I grew up with Alice Cooper. Alice Cooper was the first big concert I saw, which is pretty cool because it was not my first concert, but my first arena show on the $1 Billion Babies tour in 1973. I was like 14 or whatever. So fast forward 10, 12 years, I'm in a band opening for Alice Cooper.
That's pretty cool.
And that's like mind blowing. I was like, wow, this is cool, right?
Yeah.
So we went and did our Alice Cooper tour for a couple months. For a little while, it was just us and Alice Cooper. And then for half of the tour, it was us and Great White and Alice Cooper. They either were in the first half or the second half, I forget. And we were supposed to come back at Christmas of that year, '89, and we were scheduled to go on the Kiss Hot in the Shade tour. Hot in the Shade was their new album. Well, that came out and it was not doing well. But we were signed on the tour. Gene and Paul were fans of Britny Fox. I had known Gene from past experiences and meetings and whatever. Going back to Cinderella, actually. That's how that helped Cinderella get a deal. Because I knew Gene Simmons and Gene loved the band. Then Bon Jovi saw us play. And Gene and Kiss and Bon Jovi were both on Polygram Records. So they went back and so you got to check the Cinderella band out, right? Yada yada. They signed the band, but Tony and I were fired. You know the story probably, right? So anyway, we got back from the Alice Cooper tour, and we were scheduled to start, I think it was the beginning of March, I believe, end of February or beginning of March on the Kiss Hot in the Shade tour in the U.S. So we were amped up. Like that's what we needed to push the first album to platinum, because we were just shy of platinum at that point on the first album, and we were trying to get the second album, Boys and Heat, to gold. Had we went on that tour, Boys and Heat would have went gold, easy. First album would have went platinum. That would have put us in a whole different level of record sales. even at that point, we probably would have been started. We could have made some money, maybe. You'll have to sell that many records to even make any money. Mm-hmm. Anything less than that, you're breaking even or losing money. So the Kiss tour actually got not canceled, but pushed back. I think a month and a half, 2 months, because they wanted to get more traction with the album. They weren't getting MTV play. They were bitching with MTV, like, why won't you play our videos? We're Kiss. Mm-hmm. And they were just like, yeah, we don't play that shit anymore. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So in the interim, the first Slaughter album came out, and that thing went through the roof. They were in heavy rotation on MTV, if you remember. Fly to the Angels and Up All Night, Sleep All Day, or whatever.
Yeah. That stayed platinum for 2+ years straight.
Yeah.
Or like it stayed in the chart, high in the charts.
Yeah, I think it was like double platinum in like no time, right?
Yeah.
So what happened was, by the time the Kiss tour started, Gene and Paul they were looking at it from a business standpoint. They were thinking, well, if we take Britny Fox, their second album hasn't even gone gold yet. Mm-hmm. The first Slaughter album is already double platinum. Mm-hmm. So their thinking was, and I don't blame them from a business standpoint, that having Slaughter open for them was going to sell more tickets. Common sense, because they were selling more records, they're going to sell more tickets. So we got bumped off the tour for Slaughter. And that's when Britny Fox started to implode. We were like, okay, that sucks, but no big deal. There's plenty of other tours. We'll get on another tour. Mm-hmm. And in the meantime, we could go out and play a lot of headlining shows in like theaters and stuff, smaller venues, and do well. It's not the same, but you can do well playing, headlining smaller gigs. You can sometimes do better, especially financially, than being an opening band on a big tour. Mm-hmm. Just how it works. So then things started to get ugly with Dean, and he decided, fuck it, and he started Black Eyed Susan and quit the band, and the rest is history. So we went from, almost being on the Kiss tour to a band without a singer. That sucked. Mm-hmm. We had to start from scratch. And then it took us a year to find Tommy Paris, and the label was kind of waiting for us to find a singer, but they didn't think it was going to take a year. But it did. So by that time, they were like, this is taking too long. So we got dropped from Columbia. So now we have a new singer and no record deal. We're like, are you fucking kidding me? You know what I mean? Like, things are going from bad to worse. So we had to start from scratch with Tommy, write new songs, which became Bite Down Hard, and shop for a new record label, which we did, showcase for record labels. And luckily, a label called East West, which is part of Atlantic, ended up signing us, and we did the Bite Down Hard album. Next problem, it came out in 1991. Well, by 1991, nobody gave a fuck about glam or hair metal. It was pretty much over, or damn near over.
Yeah, at least for record industry promoting you.
Yes, exactly, right. So yeah, all the major labels, they were just like, we're done with this, man. We want this, we want bands like Nirvana and Pearl Jam and Soundgarden and Ted's Atomic Dustbin. Remember them? That was a band, right? Yeah, Ted's Atomic Dustbin. And so we were done. The album came out, almost zero promotion. Good album, right? Like, we all like it, right? I like it, you guys like it. But at the time, it could have been Back in Black, and it wouldn't have mattered. Like, it could have been fucking Back in Black, and the industry was just like, fuck that. We want bands that sound like Nirvana. Fair enough. I mean, things are, they go in cycles. I get it. But, so the album came out. Nobody knew about it. We went on a small tour. People were still coming out to the shows, but most of the people at that point didn't even know Dean left the band. So they were showing up and they're like, that's not Dean. Who's that? And it's like, well, it's a new singer. You have a new singer? And we're like, yeah, we have a new album too. And they're like, what? They didn't know we had a new album, a new singer, anything. Mm-hmm. So it was just done. We could not sustain playing at that point in like 91, playing like to 500 people a night. It wasn't, we were not breaking even. We were probably losing money. So that's when we decided we just all went home and started doing other stuff. But then fast forward 10 years later, 99, we signed to Spitfire Records. And they wanted us to do a live album and another studio album. And that's where Long Way to Live came from and Springhead Motor Shark. Then somewhere in between there, earlier on, then Columbia put out a Best of Britny Fox. So that kept the name alive for a little bit. You know what I mean? It kept the band out there. But again, in the early 90s, if you were at all in the same basket of bands.
Any kind of relation to
any kind.
And that's kind of like amazes me as far as like how did Jackal sustain such success, you know? Because like they were like they're labeled, people label them as hair metal now, and like they were like the only band that was like, no, we're still doing what we're gonna do and we're gonna have success. They didn't sell platinum albums, but like they had success.
I think they kind of timed it just right because they were not really. They were a little late for the hair metal thing.
Yeah, late '92.
So they were like, they weren't really considered like an '80s hair band.
Mm-hmm. And not really sleaze either to be in hair metal. They had a lot of bluesy.
Yeah, so they just kind of they got lucky because they fit into a niche where it was like, okay, Jackal, they're a rock band, that's still cool.
Yeah.
But if you were us or Cinderella or fucking
Poison, even Poison,
even Poison then.
Yeah.
I mean, that whole scene was just dead. So then we ended up doing the live album on that first tour when we got back together in 2000. That came out. It had great reviews. It's a great album, but it wasn't Dean, and it was early 2000s. So once again, and it was on Spitfire Records. Zach Wilde, Black Label Society, was on that label, and they had a decent amount of promotion, but nothing like a major label push.
Right.
And you didn't have MTV or any of that.
No radio help.
No, nothing. So you're kind of like an indie band. So that came out and it had great reviews, but it didn't sell much. And then a year later, we did Springhead Motor Shark. And never toured on that at all. It was just kind of to fulfill the contract that they wanted another studio album. I've said this a million times before, but that album would have done much better if we released it and didn't call it Britny Fox. If we had just made up some other, it could have been the stupidest name around.
Artist formerly known as Britny Fox.
And not, that could have worked. And we could have had a symbol, man. Fucked up symbol. But no, if we would have just had some goofy name and that album came out, I guess we could have called the band Springhead Motor Shark.
Yeah.
And it would have done well because it's cool for what it is. But Britny Fox fans, it was too different for what the stereotypical Britny Fox fan expected. So Britny Fox fans didn't like it, and everyone else didn't like it just because it was Britny Fox before they even heard it.
Right, yeah.
So it was fucked on every direction, from every direction, right? It's like Britny Fox fans did check it out, and they were like, this sucks.
And most of them probably still thought Dean was in the band, you know?
A lot of them did,
Yeah.
So the typical Britny Fox fan, it's a great album. I love it. But a lot of Britny Fox fans did not like it at all. You have to listen to it a lot to appreciate it. And then the people that never heard a note from it, they were like, Britny Fox in 2003? Get out of here. Are you fucking kidding me? It was just like not even considered something to check out because a Britny Fox album, a new studio album in 2003, that was like pissing in the ocean, man. You know what I mean? Like, seriously, it was like, what was that going to do?
I do remember when I was young, in FYE or The Wall.
Yeah.
I remember seeing Springhead Motor Shark, a copy, like one or two copies, you know. So like,
no, they did
get kind of out there, but just not promoted. Like you said.
The distribution wasn't bad. Mm-hmm. They got like one or two copies in almost every store. That was great. If it was you or me.
Yeah.
Looking for it. I would go there and like, wow, our fucking CD's in the store. Can you believe it? Mm-hmm. But it sat there for 2 years. Nobody bought it. Oh, yeah. So there was no promotion. Yeah, no promotion. And again, Britny Fox fans have checked it out, weren't cool with it really. Some, but most were not at first. And then add to the fact that it was Britny Fox was like a nail in the coffin. So that really was sad because good album went totally to waste. And then, yeah, so we never even toured on that album. The band was, done at that point. And that brings us to today.
Yep.
Here we are, man, talking about the past and all kinds of cool ancient paraphernalia, man. It's like fucking Unfrozen Caveman. Anybody know what that is? Remember Unfrozen? Nobody knows Unfrozen Caveman. Saturday Night Live. Do you remember that?
No.
Saturday Night Live used to have a skit. The guy who played the part was what's
Phil
his name?
Hartman?
Phil Hartman.
That's okay, yeah.
Phil Hartman. They would make him up like a caveman. And the character that he was doing, the skit was called Unfrozen Caveman Lawyer. So they unfroze him. He's a caveman that was frozen in the ice. They thawed him out and he came back to life. And they put a suit on him. And he became the Unfrozen Caveman Lawyer. Then they would go to the courtroom. You know what I mean? And they'd have a case going on. It was fucking hilarious. You got to look this up. So Phil Hartman's, they're like, the judge would say to him, well, yeah, I forget. I guess they were calling him Unfrozen Caveman Lawyer. I don't know if he had a name in the skit, but like the judge would say something to him. Well, according to, the law, section C, code D, under 208, whatever, you can't allow that into a courtroom. Then he would say, hey, how am I supposed to know? I'm just an unfrozen caveman lawyer. So he had his whole excuse was he didn't know shit about modern law. He's a fucking caveman. But so the whole shtick was, hey man, how am I supposed to know? I'm just an unfrozen caveman lawyer. And that was the running joke. But they made it funny because they did the different skits on the same character over and over again. So for a long time, every week, it was like the new episode of Unfrozen Caveman Lawyer. Then he was in court defending somebody for something else, like a speeding ticket or something. He's like, well, your client was driving 120 miles in a 30-mile-an-hour school zone. And he'd say to the judge or the other lawyer, hey, how am I supposed to know? I'm just an unfrozen caveman lawyer. It was fucking hilarious. And he used to do Frankenstein, too. You ever see him do Frankenstein? Phil Hartman did Frankenstein. Fucking hilarious.
All right, so Frank here says, I saw you guys with Kix and Rat in Poughkeepsie, New York? Poughkeepsie, New York.
Poughkeepsie, yes.
Back in '89. Do you have any memory of that show at all?
Of that particular show?
Yeah.
Wow, I can't. That's a tough one. Yeah, because when you're on a tour like that, you kind of remember the tour.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to remember specific shows unless something outrageous happens.
All right.
But we've played Poughkeepsie a lot. We played there on that tour, on the Rat and Kix tour. To answer that question, no, I don't remember that specific show, but that was a great tour because again, we were still, we were on our second record. That would have been the second album.
89.
Yeah.
Your Boys Ain't released late 89.
Exactly. So, yeah. So it was our second album. The band was still getting along. We still thought we had a couple years left in us, whatever. We were doing really well on that Rat tour. Kix were a great bunch of guys. We got along with them great. We even actually felt a little guilty. And here's why. Kix were around like quite a few years before us. And on that tour, they were opening. They were on the first band on the bill, and then we played, and then Rat. And that kind of didn't seem fair. Because I think we may have been, I believe we may have been selling a little bit better than Kix Blew My Fuse at the time.
Yeah.
Is what I'm guessing. I'm not sure.
Kick Blew My Fuse, it took till 2000 to go platinum.
That's what I mean. So it was a great album, but it was selling slowly. So I'm guessing that was the reason. But for some reason, it was Kix, Britny Fox, and Rat. We kind of felt like well, Kicks has been around. They have more albums than we do, and they've been around longer.
Great live show.
They were great live. They're nice guys. They were, so we kind of thought should have been Britny Fox, then Kicks, then Rad. But we weren't going to argue.
Yeah.
We just thought, well, it made us feel cool. Like, wow, Kicks are opening for us when we probably should have been opening for them. So what I remember about that tour is, the Rat guys. Well, Robin Crosby was super nice to us, man. He was always coming in the dressing room saying, "Love you guys. You sound great every night." I think he was maybe trying to tell us in a certain weird way, like, "Yeah, I wish we sounded that good every night." Because, in all honesty, Stephen Piercy had issues with his voice back then, on and off, and but everybody does, But Dean, for some weird thing, he kind of stayed strong. He sounded pretty damn good, like no matter what. And we were a tight band, and we were good live. So, we were holding our own for sure. But yeah, Robin would come in and compliment us all the time. He liked us a lot. Said, "Man, you guys are cool," yada, yada, yada. We got to hang out with him quite a bit, more so than anybody else in Rat. No one else seemed to really, they were nice to us, and they would be like, "Hey, how you doing?" But they weren't going out of their way to be our buddies. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. They were like, "Yeah, good luck. You're Britny Fox, we're Rat." Because at that point, we were like, they were
multi-platinum.
Yeah, they were like huge compared to us. So, but they were nice enough. They were nice to us. Robin especially, and the Kicks guys were great. Like, we got along with them great. So, all in all, that was a great tour. And I'm glad Kicks were on that bill. Kicks really made it kind of cool because we hung out and got along great with them. Steve Whiteman, and every night he was like right on the money. The guitar players, man, the whole band was tight and great. So that was a fun tour. So I can't remember that specific gig, but I know that whole tour was good. Like, Kicks were great every night. We were pretty damn good every night. And Rat was Rat. You know what I mean? They were doing their thing. So yeah, there's that.
All right.
Cool. Thanks for the question, that is.
Raz, can Michael describe some details about his horse rescue activities and his favorite memorable thoughts and memories from working with animals that you have worked with?
Really?
Like from your rescue?
Wow, that is super cool. Okay, yeah. So it actually started like 35 years ago, maybe. My wife, Trish, and I were crazy cat people. We would trap stray and feral cats and get them spayed and neutered and try to find homes for them. And we found homes for, a ton of them. Maybe not 100, maybe over 100, I don't know, but a lot of cats. We did it for 35 years. And the reason, you're probably familiar, right? If you want to, people that don't spay and neuter, if their cats get out, they reproduce like crazy. Mm-hmm. And then you have all these homeless cats. It's a bad deal. Mm-hmm. So we did called cat rescue for 30 some years, always feeding the colonies of cats, trapping, spaying, neutering, and then it's called trap and release. If some of the cats are too feral where they can't fit into a household and become a domesticated cat, then you got to put them back out where they came from. But at least they're fixed, right? Which is a good thing. And then the rest of them, we took in, or we found homes for them. So we did years and years of cat rescue. And then my wife Trish has always loved horses, so we went to an event where they were showing horses that were up for adoption through a horse rescue, and they have these adoptions set up primarily for thoroughbred horses that are hurt or injured or too old or too slow, and the owners of the horses that race thoroughbred horses a lot of times just get rid of them. Mm-hmm. Who knows what bad things can happen, you know what I mean? So they get rid of them. So there's a horse rescue, actually a couple of them. The one we were at, the event we were at, was a place called Rerun, where they found temporary homes for these horses with people that had farms that would take these off the track, they were referred to as off the track thoroughbreds that needed homes. You know, some people would take them for, you know, adopt them and turn them into dressage horses, which is like an event they do at like Devon Horse Show, like, you know, that kind of thing. Or they adopt them to ride for pleasure riding, or they just adopt them to give them homes. And that's what we did. So we were at the event. We saw our first horse, Tchaikovsky, who turned out to be the grandson of Secretariat. You guys know Secretariat? Mm-hmm. Famous racehorse from the 70s. Yeah, Triple Crown winner, like famous horse. Well, his grandson, Tchaikovsky, had a sesamoid fracture, a fracture in his foot as a 2-year-old, which prevented him from ever racing. Although they thought he was going to be good because he was Secretariat's grandson. So he had they thought he had a lot of potential, but he never got to race. So he ended up at this horse rescue, and we saw him, and we loved him, and we adopted him. And we didn't even know at first he was related to Secretariat. We just knew he was a cool horse and needed a home. So we adopted him, and then shortly thereafter, his buddy, who was adopted prior, came back. It was his best friend. Horses are herd animals, so they really team up in like 2s or 4s or 3s or whatever, like a whole pack of them become like a family, like really, you know, tight-knit kind of a community when it comes to horses. So his buddy came back, so we adopted him. So now we have 2 horses. And before you know it, we have horse number 3 and horse number 4 that needed homes. Because if they're there too long and they don't find homes, they euthanize them. And we were going to the farm where where we were boarding the horses that we adopted because we didn't have a place to put them yet. So we adopted the first 2 and then 2 more. And we thought, wow, we have 4 horses. What are we going to do now? We got to find some place to put them. So we were shopping around to find land, which we eventually did. And we thought, wow, we have 4 horses. Well, I guess horses are like potato chips. You know what I mean? You can't have just one. You know what I mean? It keeps going. So the next thing you know, we have horse number 5 and horse number 6. Next thing you know, we have 6 horses. We had lost a bunch of the cats by that point. You know, they get old and whatever, die from different reasons. So we ended up having 6 horses, moved to Pennsylvania, and built a house and a farm, and brought all the horses from New Jersey to Pennsylvania, where they're going to live happily ever after. So they have forever homes, and we rode them for a little bit. 2 of them were still rideable, so we took lessons and did some riding in the beginning, but then we ran out of time really to do it. So we ended up with 6 adopted off the track thoroughbred racehorses. And we lost one of them a couple years later. Then we were down to 5. Then we got another one, and we were back to 6. Then another one died. Whatever. So right now we have 5. But they're awesome animals. If you guys like dogs, they're a lot like dogs. They're like giant dogs, 1,200-pound dogs. You know, they love to interact with people, and they're awesome. So that's how we got into the horse rescue thing.
Okay. Is there like a moment in your life that sparked your interest in like playing guitar?
Yes. Well, it's kind of twofold. So I have an older brother, Joe, 10 years older. He had been in the Army, and he had just gotten out of the Army. He came home, and like most ex-Army guys and a lot of military guys get out of the Army if they weren't killed in Vietnam or something, right? It was common for, ex-military guys to come home, and while they're looking for a job or whatever, they buy a guitar. They buy like an acoustic guitar, right? To like learn to play Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, stuff like that. Primarily, you know what I mean? And Beatles and Stones, whatever. So my older brother had a guitar. They would just kind of fool around. He fooled around with. Never took it serious, really. Never took lessons. You just like to just play around on it, right? So, I was like 13 at the time, and the guitar was always sitting in the corner of the room. one day I just happened to walk in there, and I'm like, and I always loved music. I mean, I grew as a kid, as far back as I can remember, like AM radio, which you guys probably know what AM radio, know what that is? When they were playing like the Supremes and Three Dog Night and, you know, all that great music from back then, you know, like just Rolling Stones were on the radio.
Temptations.
What's that?
Like Temptations, even.
All
like
that
all
Motown stuff, yeah. Jackson 5, the Carpenters. And, I just loved music as a kid. So I walk in the room one day and the guitar's sitting there, and I thought, you know, I just was curious more than anything. I wasn't thinking to myself, wow, I'm going to jam on that thing, you know, like Beavis or Butthead. You know what I mean? yeah, cool. You know, I've sent you that.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So it wasn't like that. I just was curious. So I picked it up, and I knew nothing really. So I was like this. I'm like, I guess it's in tune. I didn't know. And I've seen people play. So my first thought was, well, I guess all you do is you press down somewhere. And so I did that. And I'm like, took me 3 seconds to figure out, well, this is higher than this. And that's higher than this. And if you go this way, notes get higher. I'm like, okay, that's not so bad. And I'm like, hey, guess what? That works on every string. Like 4 fingers, 6 strings, all these frets. I've seen people hold a pick. I knew how to hold the guitar. And I was just like, I didn't know chords at all. I've seen them, but I didn't know them. So the first thing I did is I went up to the low E string. And there's a little twist to the story too. So I went to the low E string and I just happened to press down to the 5th fret. And I went, well, without distortion. It was an acoustic guitar. So it was clean. And I happened to play that note, which happens to be an A note, but I didn't know that at the time, right? So, and you guys are probably not old enough to know of this song I'm going to tell you about, but I'll tell you anyway. So, Chris, you might know it, but watch. I went like this. I'm like, wow, that sounds familiar. That note sounded familiar. So I went, and I went, wait a minute. And I went like this. I'm like, that's that Chicago song. This is a Chicago song called 25 or 6 to 4. And I played that, and I went, I'm like, wow, that's that song, right? Then I went, and I thought the notes probably go lower. And I went down a fret, and I'm like, that sucks. That's not right. I'm like, okay, I don't know what I'm doing. So I thought, well, I'm going to go 1 fret lower again and try that. And so I went. I'm like, wait a minute. That's all that is? And I went, well, there's only 2 frets left. I went. So within like 3 minutes, I figured that out. I went. But at first I played an A flat, which was wrong, but I knew it was wrong right away. I could hear it. So I went. Started over. That's the first thing I ever played. And I thought, wow, if I could figure that out in 3 minutes, I'm going to take some lessons. So I went to my mom, said, can I get a guitar and take lessons? Well, my parents didn't have money. They worked in factories. So she said, well, I'll get you a beginner guitar. I said, sure, fine. You know what I mean? I'm not going to buy you a Les Paul day one. She bought me like a $50 small scale acoustic guitar. I took a couple lessons and learned how to read notes in the beginning and learned all my chords, major and minor, and learned how to move them around. But I, from the beginning, had a good sense of rhythm and timing. So that was helpful. And a lot of times you can learn that, but if you don't have to learn it, it's better. If you just have like an internal clock that can keep time and, you know, and then you understand rhythm and strumming. So that came naturally to me. So I took lessons. and learned all the basic stuff. And then, and after about 6 months or something, I had an older friend, George. His name was George. He was 2 years older than me. And at our high school where we went, there were only two long-haired dudes, George and me. You know what I mean? He was like the rock guy. And everybody's like, what the fuck? The guy's hair is down to here, man. It's like touching his shoulders. That was fucked up back then, you know what I mean? That's before piercings and tattoos. Can you imagine in this fucking early 70s, if tattoos and piercings would have been around?
Look at you like an alien.
People's heads would have exploded, man. But if you had hair touching your shoulder, it was like, that fucking kid, something's wrong with him. So we were the only two long-haired kids. So he had an electric guitar, and he was learning Aerosmith stuff, and he learned like overnight. So I would hang around with him. We used to both be into HO slot car racing. You know what HO slot cars are? Like 1/64 scale on a track with a
Aurora.
Oh, yeah. AFX. Love those things. Well, a side story to that, I was into cars and racing stuff. I wanted to be a race car driver as a kid. I would go to local stock car races. I wanted to be a stock car driver until I did this. Well, not until then. Even then, I still wanted to be a race car driver. But I thought that'd be cool. I could play guitar and be a race car driver. But then my friend George, he's playing Grand Funk and Black Sabbath and Alice Cooper. He's like playing Billion Dollar Babies. So fucking awesome. So I was buying all those early 70s records, Deep Purple, Alice Cooper, Sabbath, Aerosmith, and my friend George overnight was learning how to play this stuff. I'm like, you got to teach me how to do that. And then he got into a band. He's only playing like 4 months. And I would go into the garage up the street and watch his band rehearse. And I'm like, I want to do that. That's what I want to do. That's cool. And then that's when I got the bug, you know what I mean? Then I went and begged for a Les Paul because my friend George had a Les Paul. So I had to have a Les Paul exactly like his. And my parents couldn't afford it. And I couldn't afford it. But I had a paper route. I could afford records, but I couldn't afford a guitar or an amp, right? So they actually took a loan and bought me my first Les Paul, my first amp. And then I took more lessons and got pretty decent fairly quick. And then there were a couple people that I knew that were older than me, besides George, that had bands. And I would like beg them. I'm like, let me jam with you, man. Let me jam with you. And I went to jam with them, and I was as good as they were. But they were like a couple years older. So they'd let me play in the band kind of thing. And that was a bunch of different, garage bands and basement bands. So once I got into... Then I started my own basement band, and we started playing at the high school dances and stuff like that. And that's when I started taking it more serious. And then after that, you progress from high school dances and splash parties at the pool. Then you start playing the local bars, and then clubs. Then you start driving 2 hours to clubs in every direction. And then, I was in a bunch of cover bands doing that for years. And then eventually met Tom Kiefer, and at that point we were already pretty good, and we became best friends. And then at one point I just said, look, this cover band thing is just, we could do this for the rest of our lives and just be playing the same bars for no money. I said, why don't we start like a real band? And he said, sure. And that was the beginning of Cinderella. And the rest of the story, right? So it was on that Chicago thing. And then ironically, my brother Joe, who had the guitar, is who took me to my first rock concert, which was Chicago. at Franklin and Marshall College, F&M College in Lancaster. Anybody hear of it? F&M College in Lancaster. That was my first. It was in a college auditorium, Chicago. And then a little bit after that is when I went to my first Hershey Arena big concert, and that was Alice Cooper, $1 Billion Babies. And then 12 years later, I'm on tour with them. And a lot of fucked up jobs in between there, let me tell you, man. Film delivery driver, car wash, and as a kid, paper routes, shoveling snow. I used to sell seeds, man. I used to walk around. You know, when you sold seeds? Yeah, you would buy seeds you'd mail $5 and they send you $5 worth of seeds in a little packet. And you'd walk around the neighborhood and knock on the door and say, you want to buy sunflower seeds? Or rose petal seeds or fucking whatever.
Encyclopedias too.
I didn't do encyclopedias, but I sold seeds. I did anything for record money because I needed the new Foghat album. I needed the new Nazareth, fucking Zeppelin, Aerosmith, ZZ Top, you name it, Scorpions, UFO, Wishbone Ash. Everybody. I needed those albums because I was like a freak about buying records and learning how to play all these songs. So I would save my lunch money, my paper route money, my car wash money, my shoveling snow money, my mowing grass money, you name it. I did anything to make money to buy records and to help pay for my lessons. And then I got in my couple bands and it just kind of went from there. So yeah, first small concert was Chicago. First big concert was Alice Cooper. And then when I learned this was kind of a tipping point. I had this great guitar teacher from Reading named Kenny Bagenstos. He's still around, but I haven't been able to. You can help me because you're the online guy. You can track him down. And I would take my cassette player and my cassettes, and I would play. And he was familiar with most of the stuff, but even if he wasn't, I could play it for him, and he would listen to it. And within a few minutes, he could play it. He was that good. He could just hear, and he would know how to play it. So I remember taking my Aerosmith cassette to him, the first Aerosmith album. Take my cassette tape, right, on a little battery-operated cassette player. Bob, you probably remember those. You put big D batteries in a cassette player.
I still have some
Yeah, right?
in the basement.
And the batteries would last like 5 minutes.
You put them down in my basement.
If you ran the cassette deck, it lasted like 20 minutes maybe.
Yeah, so you're always putting these big D batteries in it. So I take my cassette player into my lessons. And I remember taking Aerosmith. And I'm like, I said to him, did you ever, know Aerosmith? He's like, yeah, sure. And I said, Dream On? He's like, yeah, I've heard it on the radio a ton. Because it was new then. And Aerosmith wasn't huge. And the song, believe it or not, wasn't a big hit in 73 when it came out. It wasn't a big hit until 76 after Walk This Way. That's a whole nother story. But yeah, Dream On was a flop the first time it came out. And the label only re-released it 3 years after it came out because Walk This Way was a hit. So they thought, wow, if Walk This Way is a hit, let's try putting Dream On out again. Even though it was 3 years old, they put it out as a single, and that's when it caught on. But labels don't do that anymore. You know what I mean? Back then, there were a few people at labels that had half a brain. That's not true anymore. I'm not sure they have any brain. Yeah, hardly. It's pretty fucked up. But anyway, so I went to him and I played this for him. I'm like, can you teach me this? I couldn't play it at the time. He taught it to me, but I remember.